Hey guys, I'm Gavin, and you guys are watching Back to Bush Outdoors. Found a great little spot here to camp, and I was just checking all the trees around here, make sure there's nothing that's dead that looks like it might be a problem. We're in for a good snowstorm tonight, so I'm hoping that it comes down pretty good, and I can get out in the morning. I'm about 1.5 kilometers in, maybe 2 kilometers in, and we'll have to see how much snow we get tonight. some water. Stay. Hey everyone, sorry about in that first segment there, I wasn't really talking too much to the camera. I got out a little tiny bit late today. I wasn't too sure if I was going to come out because we're in for a heck of a snowstorm tonight apparently. And I didn't leave until quite late, so I was rushing around a fair bit to get the fire in place, the tent set up, and get some of the snow out of here so I could get everything all laid out. But what my plan is for this evening, guys, is now that we're all set up, get this fire going pretty good, and then once the embers sort of burn down, we're going to do sort of a gourmet style chili. So a gourmet campsite chili is sort of what's on the agenda tonight. So I'm going to keep on stoking this, and once the ashes and everything gets burnt down, and I can pull out some of the embers, and we can set up the grate, and then yeah, we'll do some chili. Okay guys, I thought I'd show you the diesel heater setup that I got going on. So here's inside the tent. We've got Frank's bed over there. He's got a blanket. There's also an underpad underneath that. Here's my sleeping bag here. And we've got the aim tom over there, and we've got the hot air in. My head's up this direction, and Frank's on that side as well. I got my clothes and my pack over there. And then if we come around this side, I've got diesel heater run. It's about 8 feet away. And I'll go around this side so I'm not in the shadow. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. I'm the light source. Here, I'll do this. There we go. So this flickering, I hope it doesn't show up, but it's showing up on the screen. Anyway, so the diesel heater is set up. It's about 8 feet away. Run the controls all in there and zipped it tight. Got a full tank. And I've got the exhaust coming out this side. And with the actual hose, I have the hose coming up and out, and then I've gorilla taped it to the top just so it doesn't slump and go in front of the exhaust. So I'm good 8 feet away, and the wind is coming from that direction. So there's not going to be any exhaust fumes or anything like that when we start this thing up later. But yeah, for the most part, I think this setup's going to be pretty good. Hasn't started to snow yet, but I suspect that it's going to start to snow very, very soon. We had a few flakes in the air, and it's supposed to be a light snow at the beginning. And then I think we're supposed to get, I think it's between 5 and 8 centimeters. So that's about, I don't know, I think that's about 4 inches maybe. Something like that. You guys can do the math. Anyway, just thought I'd show you guys that. We're going to prep up some of the vegetables and everything that's going to go into the chili. This still has to burn down a little tiny bit. It hasn't started to snow like crazy, but it is starting to slightly snow. So I thought it'd be a good idea to start prepping this in case it turns into a severe storm. So we're going to do a half a red pepper, just in big chunks like that. Doesn't have to be any smaller. In fact, we're not going to add them until about partway through the cooking, so they're not going to be cooked all the way down. Oh, Frankie likes these too. You want one, Frank? Here you go. Good boy. That's it, no more. I need them for chili. I don't like adding them right at the very beginning just because they go crazy mushy. And I kind of like them with a little tiny bit of a bite to them. No. And we're going to do 1/4 of a large Vidalia onion. I've already halved this. There's going to be another episode. This is actually my second trip out, not my first. But the first trip, we ran into some issues, to say the least, and so that one's going to take a lot of editing. So I'm not really planning on releasing that one soon. This one hopefully goes better than the first one. You know what, that looks like enough. So 1/8 of a large Vidalia. Sorry, a large Spanish. And then again, I want to leave these kind of chunky. I don't want them super like super tiny or where you can hardly taste them. And some of these are going to go in right at the very beginning, and then some of them are going to go in partway through cooking, because again, I sort of like the texture of it not to be all cooked out. I like it so it has a little tiny bit of a bite. So you don't have to do anything crazy here too. You don't have to be using a chef's knife or anything like that. Just try and make them all roughly the same size. That's it. It's not rocket science. So I'll separate these two into half, because I want about half to go in at the beginning and about half to go in about 3/4 of the way through. That way you'll get all the flavors all the way through, but you'll still have some textures with some of those at the end of it. Okay. Only thing that needs to be prepped now are the mushrooms, and the mushrooms don't go in until really close to the end. Well, that's not necessarily true. I throw about half in. It's almost the same. I throw about half in right at the very beginning, and then I throw the other half in when it's about 3/4 of the way cooked, because I still like them to have some texture, opposed to like being cooked like crazy. So these ones, again, I like leaving a little tiny bit bigger. You cut them too thin. These ones are baby portobello. These ones taste really meaty. I quite like them in chili. But they lose about half of their size. So about half of this I'm going to probably put in right at the beginning. And then, like I said, the other half I'll probably put in 3/4 of the way. And then that way we'll get good texture and good flavor throughout. Okay. That's all I got to prep for the veggies. And I've got the beans, and I've got everything else. And then I'm going to actually go over the ingredients with you guys. I might as well do that right now before we start cooking. So there's obviously butter, obviously really good unfiltered olive oil. Highly recommend it. That just increases the burn temperature of the butter, but it's got a great flavor as well. We've got garlic. We've got lemon, if you can believe that. I know most people might be deviating at this point, thinking that this is going to be a weird chili, but trust me, this is a pretty good darn chili. So I have 2 spice blends here, and this spice blend is chili powder. It's 3 tablespoons of chili powder, 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of sweet paprika, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, not salt, and 1 teaspoon of cayenne. And so basically you get your heat there and you get a whole bunch of different flavor dynamics there. I pre-mix it like this because it's just way easier to carry than to basically bring all the different spice containers. Then the second one that I have is, this is about 1.5 tablespoon of cumin and about 1 tablespoon of chipotle pepper. So those are the 2 blends I'm going to use. I may not use all of them. I'm going to just flavor it to taste and see how it goes. And then, yeah, I'll add or subtract. Oh, sorry, there's black pepper in here too. There's about 1 teaspoon of black pepper as well in there. So we're going to pull some of these logs out and get some of the embers. And the last ingredient, which is probably going to blow some people's mind, but you don't use much of it. In fact, I'm substituting it for some really other famous chili recipes. And I've done this a couple of times now, and it seems to work out really, really great. Is a little tiny bit of molasses. Like not a lot. Probably about 1.5 teaspoons maybe, and that's it. You don't use any more than that. The sweetness can overpower it, but it's really sort of that deep molassesy flavor that you really want to sort of impart, plus a little tiny bit of sweetness. Not super sweet, but just a little tiny bit of sweetness helps cut some of the salt. There is one last thing here too. I just need to find it. Where is it, Frank? Did I bring it? Here it is. Okay, so that is about 3/4 of a cup of beef stock, and it's about 2.5 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And this is super important to add, and I'll show you when we add it and how well that's going to work. So give me a second, guys. I'm going to see if I can get this grill set up, and we can start cooking before it snows. So I'm going to get the pot up here. A little bit of olive oil in there. Tiny bit of butter. And we've got a pound of ground beef. And I gotta go wash my hands. Okay, so we're just gonna get that up to temperature, and it's gonna take a little tiny bit. That cast iron pan's gonna take a while, and depending on how much we got going on underneath it. Really dictate how fast that thing's gonna heat up. Go ahead and open the wine. It's a Cab Sav, if anybody is interested.
Now, we're not going to be using too much of this. And we've got a couple more other ingredients that might be strange to people that haven't made interesting chilies before. Chop up some garlic real quick here. And again, I'm not looking for super tiny chunks. I want this to be like a really sort of rustic campfire, sort of semi gourmet or different chili. I'm not looking for it to be like something that's overly refined. I'm just looking for the flavor to be a little bit more interesting. Add about half of that to that. Spin this and see if we can transfer some of the heat around. Okay, so this is starting to brown up nicely. What I want to do is just make sure you keep it moving so it doesn't stick to the bottom. This is a glazed cast iron pan, so a lot less sticky, right? But a regular cast iron pan, when it comes to any proteins, whether it be meat or vegetables, you can have a hard time with it if you don't keep it moving. But this one's going to be fine. So I'm going to throw in the first batch here. I've already got the beef and the first round of garlic in that right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in the first round of the other veggies, just so all the flavors can commingle, right, and get to know each other. Okay, we're just going to let that cook for a little tiny bit. I'm going to put the lid on, and we'll check back in with them in a couple of minutes. Everything's looking pretty good, though. Okay, these guys are becoming pretty buddy-buddy here. Gotta keep rotating the pan because there's a hot side, because we're cooking against the fire opposed to trying it over top of the fire. So these guys are getting pretty happy. So we'll leave them for about another another 4 or 5 minutes and we'll check back in on it. Okay, everybody's got to know each other pretty well in that bowl. Okay, we're going to stick in the next 2 ingredients. One is about a 1/4 cup of red wine. You're going to want to stir that around really well. Wish it was a little tiny bit hotter so it helped to glaze the pan, but it will do it. This is already smelling pretty good. Okay. Next thing we're going to be throwing in is going to be, I don't think I'm going to throw in all of the beef stock. I think I'm only going to throw in about a half of the beef stock maybe. And the Worcestershire sauce. Because it's already pretty soupy. So we're going to let that come up to a boil, reduce a little tiny bit. Seems like it's working out okay over here. It's hard to cook on a fire because the wind changes drastically. And so when you set it up and the wind is going the opposite direction, and you have a pretty good ember bed underneath it, what happens is that you get pretty consistent heat. But then as soon as it changes, it blows most of the heat in the opposite direction, which is absolutely not helpful in the least bit. Okay, put the lid on sideways a little tiny bit. See if it can get to a boil. And then we'll add the beans, and we're going to add the stewed tomatoes next. So lots of people add tomato paste to chili. And tomato paste is one of those ingredients where you need to be really, really careful. You add too much of it, and it can be a real problem. It's similar to salt. You add too much salt, and you're sort of buggered. But when it comes to chili, tomato paste is so strong and overpowering, is that it can really mess up a container of chili, where you'll end up with something like 20 times the size just to counter that flavor. So I don't use tomato paste in mine. Lots of recipes do. I prefer not to. I prefer just to use basically crushed tomatoes and stewed tomatoes, and that's about it. And by all means, if you guys have a recipe that has tomato paste in it that's awesome, let me know. But I've just shied away from it because of too many accidents, to tell you the truth. So that's a medium can of stewed tomatoes. So we're going to drop that in there. We're going to stir that around, and then we're going to let that get friendly with everybody. And this will take a little tiny bit for it to actually boil. We want it to reduce down just slightly. We don't want it to reduce down a ton, just because when we add dry spices to anything wet, whether it's chili or soups or anything like that, when you add dry spices, those dry spices actually reconstitute when they're in the sauce. And so most people don't know that, but when you add like paprika or smoked paprika or something like that, is that it actually absorbs some of the liquid. Not a lot, but some of the liquid, enough to actually, when you're adding quite a bit of ingredients, will actually make a difference. So it's one of those things where you want to be careful not to have too little moisture in your chili, otherwise you'll be buggered. So this is right about now is the time that I'm adding about 1/8 of a lemon. And I know most people right now, I'm probably losing them when it comes to chili, but lemon adds such a really good acid. The tomatoes already have an acid, but because they've been stewed, aren't super acidic. And so when you add just a hint of lemon to it, what it does is it's just a flavor amplifier, and it just makes it taste way better. And I add lemon to soups. I add it to a ton of different things that most people wouldn't imagine that would have lemon in it, and it does. It's just a massive flavor enhancer. So highly recommend it. So just about that much. Don't throw it in, by the way. Just squeeze the juice in. That's all you want. And you don't want to leave the lemon in there because it'll overpower it. Okay. So next up is going to be black beans. And I've got a whole bunch here. I'm not adding all of them. Only going to add about maybe half of that. Yeah, that looks about right. And then dark kidney beans. And again, only about half of a jar. You know, these guys come out of the can pretty sort of al dente, and they do need some cook time. Although I drained the liquid out of them before I brought them, and so having more liquid in here will actually help, help the process. So we're going to leave them cooked in there for about maybe, let's say about 15-20 minutes, and we'll check back in on them. And it just started to boil. I gotta put some more coals underneath it, I think. But okay, so we're gonna add our spice blends now. So I'm gonna start with about 1/3 of the chilies combinations, and we'll stir that up, have a taste of it, sort of see what's going on. But I'm gonna add about half of the cumin and chipotle. And I haven't added salt to this yet, but I will after the fact. I just want to get the flavors of the chili together and make them all all work together before I add salt to it. Now, Frankly and I aren't going to be eating all of this tonight, but we'll be bringing it home as leftovers. Oh, it needs more of everything. Oh, there's chili flakes in here too, I forgot. There's a tablespoon of chili flakes in here. Definitely more cumin and chipotle. Okay. I'll let that sit for a bit, and we'll check back in it in about 5-10 minutes. Okay, we're down to the home stretch here, guys. So it's the last of the fresh ingredients. The rest of this stuff seems to be cooked down really well. And so we're going to put this in. I'll just give a texture difference between each of the ingredients. And so instead of everything being very, very much stewed, you'll have different textures sort of throughout, which I really like. I like the red peppers to be crunchy-ish. I don't like them to be too crunchy. Okay, so this is thickened up a fair bit. And it's still probably got about, maybe on this fire, it's hard to tell, but probably another 15 minutes or so. So, we're down to the last 2 ingredients. And it has to go in this order, too. And the reason why it has to go in this order is that the last 2 ingredients are high in sugar. And if you add those ingredients right at the very beginning, you do have a possibility of scorching or burning the sugar on the bottom. And so it's important to sort of add them at the end as a flavorant opposed to as a primary main ingredient. So what it is Innocent Gun. It's basically a barrel-aged Scottish craft beer that is aged in whiskey barrels, and it has a ton of depth, a ton of flavor. It's great. I use it in gravies. I use it in a lot of things. It adds a whole bunch of deep flavor notes to it. So we're only going to put about maybe 1/4 cup in. And then it's the fancy molasses. Now, the fancy molasses has been out here in the cold for a bit, so we only want literally about less than a tablespoon of it. And so you just want just a little tiny bit, and it adds just a different depth to it. Oh, well, that's a little bit too much, but there's not too much I can do. So I would add normally about 2/3 of what just went in there, but I think it's going to be fine. I don't think it's going to impart a sweet flavor to it or anything like that. And yeah, I think it's going to be good. It smells fantastic. Still a little tiny bit on the soupy side after adding that beer, so we're going to want to cook this down. Okay, so we're pretty much done. And the snow has started to fly. I can't tell you how good this smells. it's starting to get cold out here, so I'm more excited. And the last thing is a dollop of sour cream right on the top. Oh my. I am so freaking hungry. I was wrong. The last thing to go on there is cheese. Oh, can't tell you guys how excited I am to eat this. I am pretty cold, and the snow's just starting to really start coming down. And this is just the beginning of it. It's supposed to pick up apparently based off radar in about 45 minutes or so. So this is just the beginning. But I am so hungry, ridiculous. Oh, that's so good. It's good when you're at home, like when you make it on the stove, but there's something about making it when you're out in the bush and you're doing it over wood, and just something different about it. It tastes better. Yeah, it just tastes way, way better. Hi, Frank. You already had your dinner. If you're lucky, maybe you'll have a little tiny bit of this later on, but you're not supposed to. Well, we'll see, because you have a way of working those eyeballs. Oh my god, that's so good. That molasses might seem like a weird thing, and the lemon might seem like a weird thing, but trust me when I say that it works. It works so well. Lots of people don't know about putting cumin in as well. Cumin is great, but the lemon definitely does something, and does something good, does something great. And that molasses, like I said, I put a little tiny bit extra in on this one because I couldn't measure it, but it still turned out fantastic. It just adds a different dimension to it, so highly recommend it.
It's starting to come down now, right?
That's your stick. Okay. Good boy. Good boy. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Okay. Sit. Ready? Okay. Hey everybody, it's been a little bit of a crazy night. Frank and I are heading to bed. Had a great dinner, and now it's snowing like crazy outside, so we'll see what it's like in the morning.
Hey everyone, Frankly and I fared pretty well last night. No major hiccups. Tent was nice and warm, and yeah, we're just getting up now. We had freezing rain, and we also had we had some crazy snow. So we're gonna take a look outside. Let's see what's going on. It looks like we got about 2 inches of snow, maybe less. I don't know. It sure got windy last night. Anyway, I'm gonna get up, get a cup of coffee, and we're gonna start packing up and rolling out of here.
Hey everyone. Okay, so we're going to talk about how the diesel heater worked last night. As you can tell, it's only consumed probably about half diesel fuel. I was running it on low, and maybe someone can tell me that knows a little bit more about these, what exactly was going on. I ran it on low, and then what would happen is that the wattage would start to increase drastically, and it was almost as though it was doing something automatically to ensure the fact that it wasn't going to shut down or something. Anyway, so long story short is I ended up turning up to about medium, and then at medium it ran completely fine for the remainder of the night. But on the low setting, it didn't like that. So I'm not exactly certain what was going on there. But either way, I gotta tell you, when it came to heating this rear ran tent, it did an outstanding job. I did have the upper vents opened, and next time I'm definitely going to figure out a little bit of a more level situation. It had a slight pitch to it. I wasn't too concerned about it, but during the night it became abundantly clear that even that slight pitch wasn't something that was fun. So anyway, on medium, worked absolutely fantastic. On low, it was doing some weird stuff. Maybe in the comments somebody can let me know what they think's going on.
Thanks for watching Back to Bush Outdoors.